first section is all about gathering more information on your home, right? How do you do that, and what does it mean when you do that? Now, if you look at the graph that I have on the right-hand side, you'll realize that I have a number of different components here. And let me just move this here so we see it, right? You'll see that I have a number of different components, and these are all components of your home. And these essentially help to make up the structure of your home. Now, you'll realize that this graph ends at 2030. And the reason for that is because, of course, we have some very stringent goals that we want to meet by 2050, essentially. So it means that between now and 2050, we actually have several opportunities to change each individual component that you see here. And we also have the chance to upgrade it when we're doing that and make it even better. So it's not necessarily that we're going to get to as efficient as we possibly can tomorrow or next week. It's something that's going to take time. It's going to take effort. So this graph is really just kind of demonstrating that and showing you that you have several different opportunities for that with various components of your home as those components come to the end of their respective lives, right? So you have several opportunities, and we'll harness that. Now, in this module, we'll look at the home evaluation. I'll tell you what that is in a bit. But what I wanted to do, I wanted to kind of go to the bigger picture, kind of run through the bigger picture and come down. And the bigger picture is this. We're a very resource-rich nation in Canada. We have a lot of resources that we can essentially exploit and use. Now, of course, we would be using these resources in our home. For example, electricity. We use it in our home. We turn on the TV, we vacuum, we turn on the toaster, air fryer, whatever have you. And then we also, in some cases, heat our homes with some of these resources as well. Natural gas, oils, fuels, heating oil, and so on and so on. Now, the thing with Canada is that generally where we use our resources, generally where we have large collections of persons living, i.e. our cities and towns, usually the resources are kind of far removed from there. So it means we have to somehow get them to where they're going to be used. And this is a process that actually uses quite a bit of energy. To get those resources to where they need to be, it's quite energy intensive. You have to truck it in, sometimes you have to pipeline it in, you have to transmit it depending on what resource it is. Now, this brings me to my first piece of jargon. Now, when I'm talking about energy here, I'm talking about the bigger picture, all the resources that you use in your home. Water, electricity, steam, hot water, natural gas, all of it. Bigger picture, that's energy. When I'm talking about electricity, I'm talking about electricity. And when I'm talking about hydro, I'm talking about electricity. But when I'm talking about water, I'm talking about just water that you use in your home as well. And that's important to know. That's important to understand simply because they all fall under the umbrella of utilities. Now, like I was saying, as we use more utilities in our home, we actually cause more resources to be extracted. But then we also cause more fossil fuel emissions simply because we have to get those resources to us. So if we're somehow able to reduce what we use in terms of resources, this can somehow break that cycle. Slowly but surely, it will essentially break that cycle. And that's essentially what we're trying to aim for. That's where we're trying to go, or where we're trying to be. Now, this that I'm describing is not something that's new. This is something that's actually pretty old. We've always been pretty high in terms of resource use and emissions. Actually, we're kind of up there leading the world, which is not necessarily what we want to lead the world in. So it means that we have to do something about it. And essentially, we have to look at all of our industries to be able to do something about that. Now, you'll see on the left-hand side several different targets that we've missed over the years. But on the right-hand side, you'll see all of our different sectors and where they sit. Now, if you look at the building sector, you'll realize there are three different bar charts, or three different bars here. The gray bar represents where we were just about 2018, and that is the average consumption per building. And that consumption fell between 2018 and 2020. And based on that track, it's projected to fall even more by 2030. So the good news is we're somewhat solving that problem, but we need to keep it up so that we can get the targets that we want. We need to be able to do a little bit more to get what we want to achieve, right? So the good news is that we're getting there. The other news, and I wouldn't call it bad news, the other news is that we need to kind of sustain that momentum that we've had so far, right? So there are things happening for us. Now, bring that down to the smaller picture. You have this program. This program is called NRCan, the Greener Homes Program. Just like it sounds, greener homes, better homes, more efficient homes. And under that program, you can actually have an energy evaluation done on your home. And what I mean by an energy evaluation, that's where an advisor, an actual trained energy advisor, will come to your home and will look for various things. They'll look at how many windows you have, the size of your windows, the type of insulation you have. Essentially, this will be done by a conversation and some analysis as well. They'll be looking at various things. They'll have some questions about various things. And they'll use the information that they are gathering to determine exactly where your home is sitting on an energy scale. Now, they can actually calculate where you are on that scale, and even better, they can compare you to the average or to an average for your size and type of home, or your size and style of home. Now, this is something that's particularly useful to homeowners simply because it has a lot of information in it. Here you get recommendations on some of the systems that you should target in the next 3 to 5 years. You get a report on what the home is like right now, and they'll comment on various systems, things that are performed very well or performing very well, and things that can use some improvement. And then they'll also go into detail about that improvement as well. So you actually get quite detailed information that you can then use to determine, what you want to upgrade and how you want to upgrade your home going forward. So it gives you a lot of information that you can use. Now, this is a paid service. You do have to pay for the audit or the evaluation. The two terms are interchangeable, but it's because you're using a skilled professional, and then on top of that, there's time and effort that goes into compiling each individual case. No two buildings are identical, no two buildings are the same, no two homes are the same. So you have to do some work and some analysis to get that done. Now, you will need 2 audits, and the reason for that is especially if you're going into any renovations, you want to see where you're starting off. You kind of want to evaluate that. And then after you make any changes to the home, you kind of want to evaluate where you end up. So under this program, you'll essentially need 2 audits. The good part of this is that these audits can be incentivized. And that's the first big word that I've used this evening, an incentive, incentivization. What is that? Well, it really is just where you get a sum of money that encourages you to do something, and that comes directly from the Greener Homes program. So the incentive would help you to get those energy evaluations. Now, a rebate, that's a second word that I'll use. A rebate is kind of the mirror opposite to an incentive. If you go and seek out these audits on your own, you go ahead and pay for them, a rebate program will then pay you back for them. So incentive is before you do anything. A rebate is after you do anything. That's the main difference. So you might have heard those terms before. Now, these 2 audits, they come up to generally between $550 and generally $700 in that general price range. And you are incentivized or rebated. You can't use both of the same. You're incentivized or rebated at up to about $600. So you'll see that that'll generally cover the cost. If it doesn't fully cover the cost, you'll probably be out maybe $75 or so. And to get all of this information specific to your home based on information that you gave and information that the advisor would have analyzed for $75, I think that's a pretty great deal, right? So you get a lot of information that you can then use to determine, okay, I want to install new windows in 3 years. I want to install new doors in 5 years, and so on and so on. So you can actually start planning with that. So it's a great tool that you can have. Now, here's a look at one of the systems that your energy advisor will be looking at once they arrive at your home. And essentially, they'll be looking at this to kind of gather more information. Now, this particular system is a system that is responsible for essentially ducting air all around your home. So let's say it'll take air from, let's say, maybe your basement area, it'll put it in the kitchen, it'll put it in the room, it'll clean it, and it'll essentially ensure that all those areas are serviced with air. can anyone type in the chat and tell me what system am I describing? Or do we have polls? What system am I describing there? So that's one of the systems that the energy evaluators will be very interested in as well, because they'll want to know how it's set up, what it's doing, what it's designed to do. They'll have a lot of questions about that particular system. All right, so that system is called the HVAC system, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. And that is the system that is responsible for essentially servicing all of the air needs all around your home. And it does this through ducting, fans, pumps, all sorts of different pieces of equipment. It essentially uses a lot of electricity and a lot of energy to be able to do that. So this is one of the biggest systems in our home that consumes the most energy, so to speak, right? So in this particular case, this is the system that we're discussing. Now, one of the things that's important to analyze with this particular system and with the entire home is how well the air that comes from the HVAC system, how well that air is staying inside the home. You wouldn't want to have, let's say maybe it's a cold day on the outside. I heard the temperature is supposed to fall. You wouldn't want to have a cold day on the outside. Your HVAC system is taking that air and warming it up, and then it's kind of seeping out through the cracks in your windows or the crevices in your window or your door frame or something of that nature. Remember, that's air that you paid for. So essentially, if your HVAC system has to constantly do that, it's going to cost you more. So if you can stop it from doing that, that will essentially be something that's very helpful. Now, here's another test and another thing that the advisor will be very interested in once they get to your home. Actually, my buttons here are not animating. You usually see them animating, but it's not for some reason. But in this particular case, what you're looking at is you're looking at something called a blower door test. Now, this is a specialized test, the blower door test. This is a specialized test that the advisor will most likely run on your home. And what it involves using a really heavy curtain with a fan in it. And essentially, they just blow some air in and out of your home. And what they're looking for when they're doing that, they're looking for where air can get into your home that will cause it to be drafty. So like I said, it could be around your window frames, top and bottom. It could even be the sides. It could be around your door frames as well. It could be any tiny little breaks or bridges, as they're called, in your insulation inside your wall. It could be several different places, but what they're looking for anything that will make your home really, really drafty in winter or really, really hot and humid in summer. And what they're going to suggest to do is they're going to suggest to kind of take care of those and seal them up somehow. Because remember, you want the air that your HVAC system put into the room, you want that air to kind of circulate and stay inside. You don't want it to go outside, or you don't want it to get through the window, right? And of course, you know how uncomfortable it is when you have, let's say maybe the heating is on and you open a window and you just feel that air coming in. Essentially, that's an exaggerated effect of that, right? So they're trying to reduce that effect more than anything else. So the blower door test, what they're really looking for is how well your home performs in terms of insulation, in terms of your HVAC system as well. Now, the good thing with the NRCan, they exercise their advisors. And when I say exercise them, I mean they give them various case studies to figure out and solve and things like that. And they keep them practicing. The reason for that is, when they get out into the field and they're doing actual homes, they're analyzing actual homes, they know what to look for. They're highly skilled and highly trained so that they come across various scenarios and situations so that they can speak to them. And this is an example here on your screen of that. So in this particular example here, this home is, it was constructed in 1981. It's a 2-story detached home. And nothing has been done. No work has been done. No renovations or anything of this sort since it has been constructed. Now, in this particular case, what you can see, they were able to calculate how much energy, remember energy, how much energy this particular home uses over the course of a year. And they were also able to grab the average for this style and type of house as well. So you can see on the right-hand side here on my graph, typical home of this size and style, roughly about 93 gigajoules per year of energy consumed. And this particular home that they're looking at, the one built in 1980, just about 157. So almost double the general average. So in this particular case, it means there's lots of nice room for improvement. So this is great. They have a lot of different things that they can suggest to be done, and a lot of things that the homeowner can see to over the next coming years, months, whatever the time frame or time period is, right? So this one is a juicy case. You have a lot of different details in there that you can kind of pick out and go through. And that's essentially what an energy evaluation would look like. What they're looking for is the condition of your home. They kind of compare it to an average, and then they give you information about how you can improve based on where you want to get to. All right, so it's a lot of information that can be helpful and useful to you. Now, the units that I use there to calculate energy, that's the joule. That's the standard unit of energy. But when you get into mega and giga, that just means, multiply it by thousands and tens of thousands, right? So it just means a bigger number. So in this particular case, you're seeing that because it's a bigger number in this case. Now, here's what that report looks like coming out of that example. So the advisor suggests to find where the home is drafty, identify your leaks, determine any insulation upgrades that you want to kind of get on with in the next few years. Think about your windows and doors in the next few years, and any other areas that you may be losing heat. They may actually make specific recommendations here instead of just saying heat loss. And they also get into other energy savings as well. Sometimes it could be your appliances. It could be the way you're using your appliances. It could be something else. They'll have a lot of suggestions that you can use to essentially kind of gain or gather more information from. All right, so that is essentially what an energy evaluation would look like. And that's essentially how it would be done. You'll reach out to the Greener Homes program. They'll send you an advisor based on your date, your time, your location, and what's not. And then you'll essentially have a conversation with them, several conversations with them. And those conversations will essentially speak to, some of the things that you're trying to achieve and some of the things that you're looking for. You can even discuss any problems that you're having with the home with the advisor, and they can even give you some solutions to it as well. Maybe it's drafty, maybe some other issues presenting itself. They'll have some more information on that. All right, so that's how the evaluation is done. All right, now that is the evaluation. And I wanted to check in with Chelsea here to see if we have any questions coming in so far, to see if we can get through those just before we start off our next section. Chelsea.
Yeah, we do have some questions, and if some of these make sense somewhere else to answer, go ahead. So I'm just gonna fire them off, and if you want to put it for later, let me know.
Yeah, okay, sounds good.
So the first one, someone is curious about the comparison among heat exchange to air to groundwater, their relative cost, their efficiency, and their payback date.
That sounds like heat pumps. That's something that we'll discuss a little bit more in detail, but it depends on so many different factors. It depends on your home, size of your homes, how you use it. It depends on a number of different things. Payback could be anywhere from 3 to 8 years, but it depends on so many different factors.
Someone asked, do the incentive or rebates depend on the completion of one, some, or all of the recommendations of the evaluation?
That's a good question. So the rebates you do have a minimum of 2 that you have to do. But remember, as we get into these, you'll realize that some measures are relatively pretty easy, like caulking, right? So you have to do 2 measures. You have to select 2 measures and go through with those 2 measures. It could be caulking and changing a few windows, or insulating a few windows. It could be whatever, right? So it's generally pretty flexible.